Alright, welcome back to the channel. Warhammer Man back in the studio, and today we're taking a look at Sunday Preview. So Black Library heroes on the page, and the tabletop amid an Arcane Cataclysm. A very nice piece of art right here. Super cool, we know what that means. Next week, 2 Black Library characters each get their full-length books along with new miniatures. Let's look at the hobby highlights for the next 7 days. And of course, you can watch the video on your own as always. Drekki Flynt and the Arkanaut's Oath. So this was previewed a little while back here. A new book. Pretty cool overall. Nice art on there. First encountered in the pages of White Dwarf. Then in short stories, the Lost Korak and Krenka Gorgona. The Ragish Kharadron Overlord's Captain Drekki Flynt is starring in his first full-length novel, The Arkanaut's Oath. This self-proclaimed genius has been given an ultimatum by his nemesis. But can the dashing Duradin overcome terrible storms, grot pirates, and fearsome air beasts to tell the tale? I guess we'll have to buy the book and find out. A pretty cool looking model overall. He's standing on a tentacle. He's got a pretty cool looking axe right there. Definitely the steampunk vibe of the Kharadron Overlords. And then he's got this 3-barreled pistol. It's worth noting also that he does have a beard. So GW does still have the ability to give dwarfs beards, but has chosen not to with the 40k squats, aka Votan. So interesting decision. Overall, cool looking model. I like it. Definitely not going to be buying the set or the model, as I don't know what I would ever do with that guy. Guy Haley's novel is available in hardback, ebook, and audiobook editions and is accompanied by stunning new miniatures of our protagonist, armed with custom scattergun and an axe skyhook combo. Not to mention his cutting wit. Drekki is pretty handy in a fight. His rules will be available to download for free for Warhammer community next week, so you can use him in your games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Cado Ezechiar and the Hollow King. The tragic vampire Cado Ezechiar is getting the same treatment as Drekki, with an inaugural novel and similarly incredible miniature. On the tabletop, he is a threat to other heroes, with a lethal greatsword and a selection of haunted rings. With his elegant armor, protects him from all but the worst reprisals. Now we're talking. This is a good looking model right here. So, very cool vampire. He's obviously got a gigantic sword strapped to his back. Games Workshop lately has been doing this style where they put like the kind of like heavy, sort of like blunt looking. Oh, never mind. Don't worry about that because it's in the sheath. Don't worry about me. And then he's got another handle kind of sticking out from there. You can see he has like some sort of sword or dagger or whatever. Good looking vampire right here. Definitely a fan. I love their vampire models. And then he's standing on like a above a gravestone on a little tree piece. Very good looking model right there. On the page, John French's novel, The Hollow King, follows the star of Beasts and Tower of Empty Mirrors in the path of revenge against the forces of chaos. Can he navigate through the web of deceit while remaining bound to his code and obsessed for vengeance? Find out in the hardback, ebook, and audiobook formats. Alright, so next we see the Arcane Cataclysm. So all this stuff has already been previewed. So far, no surprises, which is okay. There's been a ton of stuff in the pipe that we've been expecting. So Arcane Cataclysm. Alright, so here's the deal about this box. When it first came out, I did make a video, Games Workshop's best, or I'm sorry, the opposite. Games Workshop's worst box ever. And I did rile up a couple people, etc. I'm not saying that this isn't a good deal compared to retail. It is definitely a great deal if you're going to buy all of these models individually, plus the rule book, etc. It's definitely a good deal. But these factions, and again, while they may be good in-game, I'm not saying they're not good at all. They could be very strong factions. They could be the best factions in the whole world. But for whatever reason, people don't want these or buy these miniatures nearly as much as they buy many of the other factions. And if you don't believe me, that's fine, but it's true. You can ask anyone with a store or who has access to sales numbers. These factions just don't sell that well. But nice box. Definitely loaded with bottles. I think 2 of the biggest issues are that it has the Zangors in it, which literally come with every box for 40k or Sigmar. And then also, there's just a ton of Lumineth Realm Lords still floating around from like their box that came out like over a year ago. I mean, almost 2 years ago at this point in time, when they like sort of redid the range. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't a hit. And now there's just tons and tons and tons of Lumineth floating around everywhere. So that's why I say that. I'm not saying this isn't a good box or you're not saving a bunch of money by buying it. I just mean that it's just too... They could have picked literally like almost anything else and just had one of these factions and then someone else, and it would have been more appealing, I think, to most people. That was my only point with it. So let's take a look at what's inside. The next Warhammer Age of Sigmar Battlebox features the Lumineth Realm Lords taking on the Disciples of Tzeentch in a battle for control of the Winds of Magic. This box includes 2 brand new miniatures. The Cenari Enlightener can share her pain with her enemies, while the updated Curseling is a potential fusion, literally, of a warrior and mage. Alright, so we have the Cenari Enlightener, a new model. Pretty cool for the Lumineth Realm Lords, definitely like that. And then we have the Curseling. And now this is an old model. They had one of these a while back. I mean, it's been around for years. Not nearly as good looking as this model, but the old one is cool. This one is phenomenal in comparison, just absolutely phenomenal. I don't remember the exact lore behind the Cursing. I honestly can't remember exactly what the deal is, but he is like a warrior mage. Very cool model. This one's okay. They just have something about the Lumineth. They just have a slight cartoony vibe and just don't quite fit in with everything else. More so the characters than anything. They kind of have like that, like what was it called? Sleeping Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of like poses on all of them, and they all just look a little bit muted, in my opinion. Some of the models are really nice, but just overall, there's some kind of like weird trend in the range that just doesn't quite hit the same way as, you know, something like this. And, you know, honestly, all of the new models like that. So Arcane Cataclysm includes 5 Venari Blade Lords, 5 Venari Dawn Riders, 10 Venari Aurelin Sentinels, 3 Zangor Enlightened on Disc of Tzeentch, 10 Zangors, 20 Carrick Acolytes, and either force is a great way to kick off a new army or add to an existing one. Finally, the box also includes a campaign booklet and lore and rules, a 56-page core rules book, a token sheet, and war scroll cards for the units. So again, I will total this up and get an actual like official total for this. But if we say, let's just say 30, we'll just say 35 for simplicity for each of the characters, and we know they're not going to come out for a few months until after this box. The Dawn Riders, I believe, are 60. The Orlan Sentinels are 60 for 10. And the Blade Lords are 60 as well, I believe. So that's like about 210 worth of Lumineth. So pretty nice set there. And then the Enlightened on Disc of Tzeentch, you get 3 of those. That'd be like $60. 10 Zangors is, I want to say 50 for 10 Zangors. So 110, and then 20 Carrick Acolytes. Again, I believe, oh man, I think they come in 10s. So that's like about 80 or $100 worth of those. So about $200 on that side as well. So looking like most of these boxes as of late, where essentially the Sigmar boxes, you get about $400 worth of stuff, including a rule book, everything you need to play the game but dice and a ruler and maybe a friend. And you're looking at basically 50% off. So you can't beat the deal over retail. If you were going to buy half of this, if you were going to go through and just buy half these models, you know, one side of this, you just get the other half for free by just buying this box set. So you really can't fault that. And that is obviously the most accurate way to compare the prices. But obviously, you know, if you compare them to a bag of 100 little green army men at the dollar store, you know, they're going to be much more expensive than that. So, you know, somewhere in between. So pretty cool overall. I think this box will be okay. It should sell okay. The truth is, the last 2 boxes we saw come out for Sigmar were both better than this, in my opinion, as to what came in them. They were a very similar composition. A couple more new units. This only has the 2 characters that are new. We recently saw the Skaven got a new character, but no new units. But the Lumineth got a character and a new unit in the box set as well. So definitely a little more appealing, obviously, because you have essentially who's really excited about this box? People that want these characters, people that want to start or expand on an army like this. So the more new stuff that's in the box, the more appealing it is. So when they just put like 2 characters like this behind a paywall, it doesn't tend to sell like phenomenally well. The same way like new units or something like that would. Because if you play Luminath, you're only ever going to want one of this character. If you play Tzeentch, you're only going to ever want one of this character. But if you play, let's say, Luminath, you might want a bunch of those, like, what were they called? The little, like, butterfly-looking fairy guys. I can't remember what they were. Very cool models. But you might want, 12 of those. Or I'm sorry, 10 of those. And they only come 5 in a set. So you might buy 2 boxes, or you might split with a friend or something like that. So it actually, like, from a marketing standpoint, creates a much better, like, selling point. So next we have the Deathmaster. So this was the unique character that came in the most recent box, Echoes of Doom, which was the Skaven versus the Tree Man. This model is absolutely phenomenal. I love the way he's like holding his little blade down here, and it's like dripping poison off the sword, dripping poison off the little sharpened tail. Cool little like arch kind of pose. Definitely like it. I do like characters with a little more eccentric of a base. That being said, they look good and they stand out better on the battlefield. And if it doesn't affect the gameplay, it's much more like cool to have something like this. I like it. Taking tactical rocks to like a whole new level. So first, hidden in the shadows of Echoes of Doom Battlebox, the Skaven Deathmaster is an expert assassin. These ruthless rodents can hide in another Skaven unit before leaping out and attacking with their weeping blade, which can dish out lashing of mortal wounds. So that is pretty cool. You hide this character in another unit, and then when the time is right, he bursts out, so your opponent's kind of like surprised and not in a good way. Next we have Lady of Vines. This is a pretty cool model. She is bigger than I thought she would be. Again, she came in the Echoes of Doom box. This is a nice size model. Obviously on a big base with these like crazy sort of like back tentacles. Very nice looking model though. Lead your Sylvaneth into battle with the demigod daughter of Alarielle herself. Sorry, they changed the names. Ariel used to be her name back in the day, and then they changed it to Alarielle so that they could, claim it as their own. The Lady of Vines can cut down her foes with her massive spear. Kernothiel's Wrath can summon dryads, and its potent magic user to boot. She's also a fantastic painting challenge thanks to her varied textures, symbols, and motifs. Nice looking model for sure. So again, that's a big appeal right there, because I suspect this Skaven guy will be $33.50, and she'll probably be around like, I don't know what her price point will be, maybe $45, $42. Krondspine Incarnate of Ghur. So this was previously only available in that new box that came out for like over $200, and it was a bunch of terrain, and then this model. And again, it was clearly a paywall type scenario where if you want the Crownspine Incarnate of Ghur, you have to buy that box to get it. And it's a $200 box. Now, the terrain that came in the box is nice, but I'm going to tell you the truth right now. That box was a total failure. The numbers on that box were phenomenally bad. So absolute just disaster. And that's funny because we see a clear difference between the pricing power Games Workshop has with the 41st Millennium, or like the 40K universe, or even to some degree you could say with Horus Heresy, but the Horus Heresy prices have been much more reasonable, and a ton of the stuff for Horus Heresy has come over from Forgeworld, so it's like 30 to 50% off as well. As we're with Sigmar, if GW prices something a little too expensive, it completely flops. And my example of that is, again, those last 2 Sigmar battle boxes that they put out, the price tag on those was $195. We didn't see a price increase because I don't think they have the pricing power. And we'll know that for sure when this one comes out, or when we get the prices on Monday or Tuesday, because if it's still $195, we know Games Workshop doesn't have the pricing power. Because if they could, they would easily raise it to like the $205, $210, or $230 price point that they've been using lately. As far as this guy, this is probably going to be like $100. It's a big model. I think GW will probably sell him for around like $80 or $100. And then in hindsight, that box will actually look okay. But, it's too late. Oh, and for the battle boxes, the last 2, the Echoes of Doom and the Night Haunt. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. It was the Night Haunt versus the Daughters of Cain, or Arena of Blood, maybe? those two boxes still right now, again, they came out at $195. You can get them on the internet for about, in US dollars, for about $140 shipped, including tax right now. So they're currently selling at 30% off of their retail price, which is actually against like Games Workshop's rules theoretically. But that tells you right there, if they're still available, because these are supposed to be limited boxes, and they're also selling at a massive discount like that, there's obviously just a ton of them sitting around. Which that's okay, because you can get a steal on them. I mean, the truth is, at $140, you're paying $70 per side, and the start collecting boxes are basically like $100 right now for Sigmar. So you're getting a $200 worth of models. If you bought a start collecting for each, you're getting models that aren't even out yet via the characters, and you're paying $140, so $70 a side instead of $100 a side. So pretty good deals, honestly. And I've picked up both those boxes myself. So when the realm of beasts gets angry, it gets very angry. The Crownspine Incarnate is a creation of pure Ghurish energy that an army can field in Warhammer Age of Sigmar. It's deadly to enemy units and can even devour endless spells. Can be deadly to your own units as well. So cleansing Aquilith. So this is a really nice piece of terrain. I really like this. To tell you the truth, I almost bought that box just to get this piece of terrain because I love this thing. This is absolutely awesome. I love everything about it. Not even so much for Warhammer, but for me, this looks like the perfect sort of like campaign objective or like big like kind of like adventure kind of end spot for Dungeons and Dragons. This is super, super cool. I love the like broken stairways of an old temple up to like this floating like gravity well of like pure water and energy and magic. I love how it's like chained down so it doesn't float away. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love this model. It is super, super cool. That being said, it was not cool enough to get me to buy that whole box for $210 to basically get this. And I do actually like the other terrain in the box too, but again, it just was so overpriced in my opinion. And the truth is, I'm one of those people that's willing to pay a lot more for terrain than most people are. I love nice terrain, and also I just don't have a lot of time. So for me, I could create something as cool as this piece, probably fairly easy. But how much are the parts I use going to go into it, or supplies? Well, if I craft it completely from scratch, I could build this for basically, $5 or $10, something like it. Probably not going to look as good. If I use some bits and stuff from other kits, I might end up spending $20, $30, $50 worth of bits and then still putting a bunch of work into it. So if this thing comes out and it's $60 and then I can get a little discount on it or whatever, for me, instead of having to go through all the process of building it and using bits and converting it and spend, countless hours making something like this, I can just buy the kit for $60. That's like, a couple hours of my time, in dollars, instead of me spending 5, 6, 12 hours making something like this. Now, I do still enjoy conversions and customizations and all that stuff, but I get to do plenty of that, for commissions or whatever. So when it comes to a terrain piece like this, it's already really cool. They've done a phenomenal job with it. So for me, the trade-off between time and money is easy to go in the direction of just spending some money. It's not like that for everyone, and it wasn't always like that for me. I used to always convert all my own terrain, and I wouldn't buy anything. But GW's terrain is phenomenal. I really like it. So now I don't mind buying it just because it's so much better when it's all said and done. And then also, not only do I save a ton of time not having to create my own, but then I can build it and paint it in the time that I would normally be using just to convert it. So in my opinion, the trade-off is very, very often towards, hey, I'll just buy it because it looks great, and then I can go right to build it and paint it when I have a little free time. Because I don't have a ton of my own time to spend on things I want to do, if I can cut corners on spending time and just spend a little extra money, that's a trade-off I am willing to make. And it's not always like that for people, and I completely understand that. So the floating fountains aren't just to preserve the Lumineth Realm Lords anymore. Fresh water is crucial to the Dawnbringer Crusades, making the cleansing Aquilith an ideal piece of scenery to fight over. Will you defend it, or will your outpost be doomed to thirst? Megadroth Remains. Finally, another kit from the Realmscape Founding and Strongpoint box will be available for pre-order separately from Saturday. The Megadroth Remains are a great way to finish off a Ghur-themed battlefield. And the bones of a mighty beast of your armies to fight over. So this would be much more difficult to make. I could probably 3D print something similar to this. But again, It looks great. I really like it. Now, what is this going to cost? Again, probably, I don't know. There's not a ton to this, but I have a feeling GW would release something like this at like $50, maybe even 60. $60 for the last one I could see. I think 50 for this makes sense. Very, very cool. Definitely like this. This paint job is absolutely phenomenal too. This is stunning paint job. Very, very cool. I love all of the, I would imagine it's dry brushing, but it looks great. This is very cool. And this is going to fit in perfectly with the new Heart of Ghur, kind of like skeleton, beast, like swamp stuff from that set as well. So this would go perfect with it. Very, very cool. And there's some stuff that's not being released on its own, I guess. At least not yet. Because this is only 2 of the pieces in the kit. I thought there were 3 unique pieces. Maybe it's only these 2 unique pieces, and then the Thondian guy, and then the rest was all in the old terrain kits. That actually sounds right. I would have to look at that. So next for Warcry, we see the Centuarian Marshal. So I love this model. I'm definitely going to be picking this guy up. Again, this is super cool, and there's not a lot of centaurs in 40K, or I'm sorry, in Games Workshop universe, Warhammer. This is just great. I absolutely love this model. It would be fun to fight in Warcry, but realistically, again, I mean, this is just going to be a joy to paint, and then also definitely a big boss you could fight in D&D. Very, very nice looking model. Definitely going to pick that up. Warcry Heart of Ghur hit shelves yesterday, and the first reinforcements are already approaching the Gnarlwood. The Centurion Marshal is an ally that any Chaos Warband can field, armed with devastating quartet of gladiatorial weapons. So he has 4 arms, 1 in each. Pretty cool. They can also join your Slaves of Darkness army for Warhammer Age of Sigmar with free War Scroll, which we'll be giving away on Warhammer Community this week. So that's cool. Strange that it didn't make it in the book. So they must have been working on that for a while. So Chaos Legionnaires are next. So these are pretty good overall. This guy looks straight out of the existing range. Well, maybe not even. Man, I really like these guys. I think they look great. These look great. There's only 8 of them. Most of the Warcry faction warbands, like specific for Warcry, are like 10 models. So these guys are going to be pretty beefy. Definitely. I like them. They look good. Definitely cool. The Warcry models are just absolutely stunning. The Chosen of Be'lakor march into the heart of Ghur in the name of darkness. The elite chaos fighters hit hard and can take a real beating. Along with 8 new miniatures, the set includes the fighter and ability cards to use in games of Warcry. And like the Centurion, they'll also be getting Warhammer Age of Sigmar rules. So I'm not sure what they're going to price those at. I would imagine that Centurion is going to be upwards of $60. I don't know. There was a couple other like pretty big Warcry models that came out that were closer to like the $40 range, but I have a feeling they're going to go for like $60. And then for the warband, we know the current range of warbands is like different prices. The more recent ones that came out, which is probably what this one's going to be priced at, I want to say it's like 60 USD for the models and the cards. And then next we have the Warcry Compendium. So I knew this was coming. Obviously, they didn't talk about it, but they gave away all of the rules for this, which is great. There was speculation as to why they gave away the rules. When was the Compendium actually going to come out? Was it to stop from having to delay the release of the Warcry set? You know, who knows? Regardless, who cares? They gave away all the rules to like update your existing factions. That's awesome. I think it's great. And then on top of that, by giving away all those, now they get to test to see, do people still buy the Compendium? Now, they don't really have a number to specifically base the Compendium sales off of to know whether or not giving away the rules hurt the sales for the Compendium. But overall, it's better for Warcry because a lot of people will not buy the Compendium, but will play Warcry with free rules, like free fighter cards and ability cards. Someone like me, I'm still going to buy the Compendium. I'm still going to print off some of the other cards and cut them out and put my Warcry or my warbands together and make little cheat sheets for them or whatever. But I like to have both. So Compendium, very nice. Warcry Compendium pulls together the fighter profiles and faction abilities for warbands from Grand Alliance Order, Grand Alliance Destruction, Grand Alliance Death, and Grand Alliance Chaos in a single grand tome. Over 800 profiles to reference in your games. It's an ideal guide for using your Warhammer Age of Sigmar miniatures in Warcry. Very nice. I mean, Normally I would say GW is going to go with $60 for the book, but because it's Sigmar, because it's Warcry, I would say probably $50 for this, 50 USD. Next we have Aeronautica Imperialis. Oh, and this further brings back my point about Warcry though. People were giving me a little flack in the comments about essentially saying that I don't like the idea of doing like the whole season and all that for Warcry, but I was positive about the idea of doing that for Kill Team. So I was like being contradictory or whatever. I mean, they're very close to each other as far as what they represent. You know, the best skirmish game for the 40K universe and the best skirmish game for, or only whatever, for Sigmar from Games Workshop. But the fact of the matter is, Kill Team is much more popular and has a much bigger like player base and following. And there's a lot of people that exclusively play Kill Team. The same way there's a lot of people that exclusively play 40K, and then there's a bunch of like carryover. With Warcry, there's very few people, in my experience, that just play Warcry. There's not a big following like there is with Kill Team. Most people I think that play Warcry also play Sigmar or have like a full army or something along those lines. So that's my point is that it doesn't have this like exclusive following of its own. It's really just like a piggyback. Most people who are playing this are playing it because they already have the other stuff. I don't think that Warcry is nearly as much of like a barrier or like an entry point into Sigmar as like potentially Kill Team is into 40K. Matter of fact, I don't think either of their major skirmish games are really like an entry point game anymore, because they're not cheap, which was the appeal was, oh, if you can't afford to spend $1,000 on an army for 40K, you could spend, you know, $100 on a warband and then slowly just build that up, and the next thing you know, you go from a Kill Team to, you know, a skirmish force to, you know, a full-blood army. I just don't think that's going to be the case for Warcry. And again, what we already have seen is there's going to be 4 main boxes. The first one is $230. So if the next ones are only $200, and say the first one's more expensive because it's the starter box, $230 plus another $600 for the other ones, we're looking at $830. Now you got the compendium too, let's say $50, that's $880, and then they got a new warband already out and a character out as well. That's another, you know, $120. So we're at $1,000 for Warcry, and that's just what we know is either out, about to be out next week, or coming in the next year. I'm sure there's gonna be tons and tons of other releases over the year. And now you don't have to buy all $1,000 worth of stuff to play Warcry. You don't even have to buy the book. If you have some models of your own or some cardboard cutouts and the free stuff they gave away, you can play Warcry. So you don't have to spend any money to play Warcry. If you already have a bunch of models and you buy the compendium, you can play for, you know, $50 or $60 or whatever. If you buy a starter set and then add on to it, maybe you spend $200 or $300. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of people in this hobby and a lot of the sales for GW are by people that are collectors. And when I say collectors, I mean they might play the game, they might paint, they might like the hobby, they might like all these things. But when I say a collector, I'm talking about someone who buys something and then ends up just sitting on a shelf. Maybe one day it gets built, maybe one day it gets painted. But essentially, I'm talking about people that just buy stuff because it's new and it's cool, with ambition that one day they'll get to it. But let's be real, with the release schedules anymore, I know for a fact people's piles of shames are bigger and more robust than they have ever been. So that being said, that was my main argument with the Warcry setup. So we have Aeronautica Imperialis Horus Heresy rulebook, so you can now play in the Horus Heresy universe. Pretty cool for Aeronautica players. I've never met anyone that has any of this or plays the game, so I honestly don't know. I can't say I've never met anyone, but like I've met people that have played it before, have stuff, but I don't know anyone that plays this on the regular or anything like that. Vanheim Area of Engagement, so we have like a little board action. Ares gunship, so the Custodes like transport gunship. Aircraft cards for the Legion of Astartes. Aeronautica aircraft cards, Divisio. Again, just a bunch. I mean, look at just how much stuff is coming out on the regular. I think most people either play or collect more than one game. I would imagine, and you know what, I don't even have to imagine because I hear it nonstop in the comment section, the release schedule is just out of control. We need to just hope and pray that a lot of this was backlog from over the last couple of years, and now they're just getting it out of the pipes. But we know for a fact that GW's release rate is unsustainable. Without growing the hobby substantially and onboarding like a huge amount of new players, new collectors, new people interested, there's no way this product keeps selling the way it's been selling. Because the problem with GW stuff is if you don't grow the hobby, maybe you get a few more hobby dollars out of people at first. Maybe people will spend 20% extra or 50% extra or twice as much as they did the previous year. But that's not sustainable over time without new people coming in and buying stuff. Because the truth is most of us have adult responsible lives and limited hobby budgets. So if I have, let's say $200 a month or something I'm allowed to spend on Warhammer, or I have allocated to spend on Games Workshop products, that $200 is going to Games Workshop, and maybe I can squeeze another 50 or 100 out of it for a little while. But over time, I can't just all of a sudden start dedicating $400 a month or whatever, $100 a week, however you do it, to GW products. It's just not going to happen. So the only way they can keep up this release schedule and keep up the sales is by growing the game. And by growing it, I mean new people, new dollars, new people ready to spend, not just growing it by getting the same people to spend more. It's just not sustainable. Necromunda Deluxe Spyker. I really like this model. A lot of people compared it to Megamind, which I thought was pretty funny. But this is a super cool model. It's going to come from Forgeworld. Obviously, all the characters and special models for Necromunda come from Forgeworld. Very, very cool. I don't like resin, so it's a pass for me. Part spy, part Spyker, all brain. I'm sorry, part spy, part Spyker, all brain. The exclusive hang on for Deluxe gangs can use his warp fueled powers to help you dominate the Underhive. The Spyker, that's his name, comes with a fighter card, and full rules for using them in your games of Necromunda can be found in the House of Shadow. Comes with a fighter card, and full rules for using them in your games of Necromunda can be found in the House of Shadow. Interesting. So he just comes with one fighter card that's already filled out for you. I guess that's cool. So Corpse Grinder weapon set. Again, Forgeworld upgrades right here. We've seen these for most of the factions already for Necromunda. Very cool. I mean, these look phenomenal. Very, very cool. Definitely cool. All the upgrade sets have been pretty awesome. So the new Necromunda releases will be available to pre-order on Friday from the Forgeworld web store. Next we have Black Library. So we have the Rogal Dorn Emperor's Crusade Special Edition. Very nice looking book right here. So what is this, a slide, or is that the special edition? 6 decades into the Great Crusade, the Emperor asks Rogal Dorn and 3 of his brothers to expand the Imperium to the far side of the northern major warp storm. There they will encounter the foe he likes, the likes of which they have never been encountered before. Will Dorn's strategic genius be enough to ensure victory? Okay. Very cool. Okay, so that's just the special edition and regular book. I wasn't sure because they haven't really released them both at the same time as of late. The special edition book has been coming out, but the actual book was already out. I'm not sure if that's the case here, but it looks like both are coming out together. So this is the LE limited edition special edition book, and this appears to be the regular one. Both look really nice. Obviously, the special edition looks phenomenal. Great artwork. We see all the gold gilt edge pages, and your little built-in bookmark and all that good stuff. They have, oh nice, they're actually doing more copies. This edition is strictly limited to 2,500 copies. In the past we've seen 1,500 or 2,000. It is signed by the author Gav Thorpe and comes with leather effect presentation slipcase. Make sure to set an alarm for Saturday. So probably $65 for this. Blackstone Fortress Ascension, Gospel, Prophet of the Wa, a bunch of just other Black Library stuff coming out in different languages. We see some French, some German, and then some Warhammer Plus stuff as well. So quite a bit of releases for most games here. We see, this is, obviously most people don't just buy every release that comes out, but this is a pricey set of releases here. Anytime you have one box coming out a weekend that's $200, that is just overwhelming for people. So, and again, if you just bought that new Warcry set and then you're like, oh, well, I have to get the Compendium too, now you're in for $280, in the last week or two. And then at that point in time, you're like, well, do I get the new Warband? I really want the Marshal. Do we just call it 400? It's just a lot. It's a lot, I think, for people. So I know a lot of people are feeling overwhelmed. At this point in time, I think a lot of people are probably getting pushed out of the game, unfortunately. I do love to see tons and tons of models come out. The truth is, the way I look at it is, I would rather have models available for purchase and just not buy them or not have the money to buy them at the time than not have them at all. But that's not how everyone thinks. The whole thing can be a little overwhelming, and at some point in time, a lot of people just call it quit and just say, you know what, I want this, I want this, I want this, I can't get them all, so I'm just going to pull back from the hobby for a little bit, collect myself, and then oftentimes they'll find an alternative or start 3D printing or something like that. I just think this is just overwhelming for people that are trying to collect. If you play multiple games too, I'm sure this is just, it's got to be too much for most people. So you let me know. That's my opinion. Obviously some great releases coming out. Super excited for some of the models. Really excited for the new Warcry edition and getting to play and paint and use some of those models. I'll probably do a tutorial walkthrough video for painting the terrain if I have an opportunity to, using probably contrast paints, some dry brushing, zenithal highlighting, etc. But I really like the new Warcry stuff. So you let me know what you're excited about, what you're going to be picking up. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're into daily content, reactions, reviews, and news like this, or you're into painting, modeling, conversion, or magnetization tutorials, check out the playlist. Subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. We take a look at everything from Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, Warcry, and of course some Horus Heresy as well. But that's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man. Make sure to subscribe, and I'm out of here.